So I was actually just on the phone with my best friend's husband, who's a doctor in town, and he's awesome. He's one of those great doctors everybody loves. But his story goes essentially like this. He was born and raised in a upper middle class family who had, plenty of money. His dad was a doctor. His dad's dad was a doctor. There was plenty of money for him to go to school. He went to medical school with no debt because there was inheritance from his grandfather that put him through medical school. So he was able to graduate from medical school with no debt. And then there was even money left over for a down payment on a house and for a car. And so, they're my age and doing quite well. And so that's a fine story, right? But is it a story that moves you or makes you, why not, Jennifer?
It sounds so easy.
It sounds so easy. Exactly. I don't know, people who've just had it so easy, it's really hard to get excited about those stories, right? What are the kinds of stories that tend to resonate with us? Underdog stories, yeah. People who have to overcome obstacles. So a few years ago, I read a book called Breaking Night. If you have not read this book, you should do so. It's a biography, and it's by, I want to get her name right, Liz Murray. And she's a woman who grew up in poverty. She was raised by drug addicts. And there were times when she and her sister had to just find whatever was in the house just to stop their stomachs from grumbling. So they would resort to eating chapstick and toothpaste and yeah. And by the time she was a teenager, she just decided, I can't be here anymore, and she was homeless. So she still continued to go to high school though. She would just study on the subway, or she'd find a little corner somewhere in an apartment complex to do her homework. She'd stay with friends when she could. And she eventually did okay enough in high school to where she got accepted to Harvard and got a scholarship and graduated from Harvard and has gone on to have an amazing life. So is that story a little more inspiring than my poor friend who is a wonderful doctor? But yeah, because we love hearing how people overcome obstacles. And I think in our lives when we're setting goals for ourselves, we think, it's hard, because it is. If we want something different in our lives from what we have now, there's probably some obstacles. Otherwise, we'd already be doing the thing that we think we want to be doing, right? So what I find exciting about this is that we have an opportunity to kind of overcome those obstacles and create that inspiring story, not just for ourselves, but maybe for the people around us. Maybe we can be the story that somebody in a presentation talks about to inspire other people. So it doesn't have to be hard. That's the great thing. There actually are some really good tricks and tips that I'm going to share with you today that hopefully breaks it down for you and helps you realize that it's not really that our dreams and our aspirations are too big. It's that we don't really know how to go about setting forth a plan that helps us get there. So that's what I hope we can do today. This is going to be a little bit more of a workshop and less about me just talking at you. So I hope that we'll be willing to talk and share. But I love this quote that just kind of summarizes really what Jennifer was saying. You measure the size of the accomplishment by the obstacles you have to overcome to reach your goals, right? When it's easy, we go, well, yeah, of course he became a doctor. But, when you've been homeless and you were eating chapstick as a kid for lunch, wow, she went to Harvard. That's amazing. Okay, so I have 5 secrets for you, because I don't know, 5 just sounds like a good number, and we all like to know that there's secrets that we're going to be privy to. So the first one is we need to choose a goal that we want. Now contrast this with choosing a goal that's based on something you've been told your whole life, or you've been telling yourself recently that you should do. The contrast between want and should. So I've had friends over the years really try to get me to want to train to run a marathon, and I hate running. So, you should really do it. It's fun. It's great. Should does not inspire me, but something I want to do, that I can get around. So the difference between shoulds and wants. So shoulds lead to things like low motivation. Over time, how long are you motivated by your doctor telling you should lose weight? How long does that last? Yeah, about 2 seconds, huh? Failure. It leads to failure because we give up. It's not motivating. And then what do? We beat ourselves up. Shoulds turn right into beating ourselves up pretty quickly. But if we shift to something that we want for ourselves, that leads to high motivation, more likelihood for success, and feelings of freedom. Like I'm pursuing something I really want in my life, not something somebody's told me to do. And that can be really powerful when we're setting our goals. The next secret is we need to turn those wants, the behaviors, things that we want, into actual behaviors. So what I'd like you to do with your first piece of paper is draw a little cloud. Yes, I seriously want you to make it a little cloud because this is your aspiration. This is the thing that you want to do, not something somebody's told you to do. What do you want for yourself? And it can be aspirational. It can be big. Don't be afraid of big because big actually stirs our blood to action, makes us excited about accomplishing this thing. So take a minute and give yourself a little space beneath there because you can see we're going to write some behaviors. And actually, those behaviors are going to go on your sticky notes that you're going to just stick under there. So just first think about your aspiration. Maybe you came here today because you have one. Maybe Doris is like, my life's pretty good.
I'm 64.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So maybe it's something small. Maybe it's not something huge. Maybe you just want to get better sleep, and that's something that would improve your life. Or maybe you want a stress-free weekend. It could be something like that even. All right. If something pops into your head and you don't have anything written down, you can always kind of come back to it. So let's just kind of go through this with one example that I had. So I want to climb a 14er next summer with my best friend. So this would be maybe something more exciting for me anyway than training to run a marathon. So that's, pretty specific goal. I can kind of picture it, and it's aspirational. It's not going to happen overnight. I'm not just going to go do this one day, right? Okay, so now the key is we have to figure out what specific behaviors, and BJ Fogg, who's a behavior design expert that I was able to study under, he calls this the swarm of bees. So now what we need to do is just brainstorm as many ideas of what do I need to do to get there. And this is where the sticky notes come in. And what you want to do is be really specific. So before you start, let me just give you some examples to kind of get your mind going. So if I wanted to hike a 14er with my friend next summer, maybe I could start walking every day for 30 minutes. That would be one option. Maybe I could buy a book about the Colorado 14ers, right? Maybe I could buy some quality hiking boots. If I don't have anything that's comfortable hiking in, maybe I need to do that. I could take small hikes once per week. I could practice climbing on an incline treadmill daily. I could join a gym down the street. So these are just all the things that are coming into my head. They can range from the tiny little things to the big things. Right now it's just behaviors. You're not worried about how hard they would be to do, but eventually you'd probably have to do that thing to get there. So if you could, this is the question I want you to ask yourself as you're writing things down. If I gave you all a magic wand right now and you suddenly became a magician, what are the things, anything that you could do to reach that aspiration? There's no barriers, Dylan. You can do anything, just need to write it on your sticky note. And try to be as specific as possible. So I didn't say buy a hiking book, I said buy a book about the Colorado 14ers. All right, if ideas continue to pop in your head, because they will, go ahead and just write more ideas down. We're going to kind of move on to this next step. So the next part on your other piece of paper, what I'd like you to do, and if you turn it sideways, it'll probably be like landscape side. a little bit better. You're going to draw a line across your paper just like this. And over on the left, just write, I know I won't do it. And all the way over to the right, I know I will do it. So any behavior that we have written down, it's going to fall on this continuum between, yeah, I know I'm not going to do it. And we all know, we all know deep down what we're going to actually do and not do. And then there's going to be those things that, oh yeah, that'll be pretty easy. All right, so let's take my little sticky note example to kind of help you understand what you're going to do next. So you're going to take those sticky notes and you're going to place them in that you could place them kind of anywhere from right now, top to bottom, but on this continuum left to right, how likely is that you'll do it? So for me, joining the gym down the street. I haven't actually worked out in a gym for 3 years now, even though I taught in one for 20 years. So joining a gym down the streets, I'm not going to do it. So I put it way over to the left, okay? But buy a book about the 14ers, so that's pretty easy for me to do, and I could do that. So I put that way over to the right. Practice climbing on an incline on the treadmill daily. Well, if I'm honest with myself, I hate the treadmill. Torture. So boring, I'm not going to do it, but maybe a little more likely to do that than join the gym, okay? And buying high quality hiking boots, yeah, I could do that. That seems pretty reasonable. Walking every day after work, that seems like a good thing I could do. That would be pretty attainable. Taking small hikes, I actually do love to hike and be outdoors, so I could certainly do that, and I'd look forward to that, so I put it more on the right. So that's what you're going to do next, is place your sticky notes and give yourself, I should have said this, if you need another piece of paper, give yourself a little bit of room because we're going to be writing another line that goes the other direction too, on the same piece of paper. But for now, just go left or right. Okay, so the next thing we need to consider when we're choosing behaviors to focus on is how impactful that behavior is going to be at getting you towards your goal. So now you're going to write a line right through the middle. It's eventually going to look, well, and I guess I can't go. You have this line going from left to right. Now this one goes right through the middle of it. So now you have 4 basically sections that are about equal. So just draw a straight line right through the middle of your other line. And I failed to mention that you can't put anything smack in the middle, so sorry about that for those of you who did. You might have to nudge your sticky notes over to the side a little. So here's the process to do this. Now, it's very important that when you're moving your sticky notes, before you move a single sticky note, D. You cannot change where it is from left to right. So as best you can, you're just moving it up or down, right in the position it is left or right. So, for example, my sticky note, if I go back for practice climbing on a gym, it was right here on my paper, okay? I didn't move it left or right, I just moved it up to the top. So, I put it up to practice climbing on an incline. Well, that's going to have some pretty good impact on helping me train for cardio, and it's given me the incline. So even though it was over here on the left toward I won't do it, the impact is still pretty good. So I put it up there, okay? Joining the gym down the street, just joining the gym doesn't guarantee I'll do anything in the gym. So I put it down a little lower. Taking a small hike, that's going to have a lot of impact because it's mirroring what I'm training for, right? Walking every day, maybe not as much of an impact if I'm already in somewhat good shape because I'm not getting the incline preparing for that hike. If I hadn't ever even walked for a long time, that might be higher impact. Buying that book, yeah, I need to know what the heck I'm doing. So doing some research on the 14ers would be really high impact. Buying those hiking boots, that'll be high impact because that'll just really be the thing that keeps it comfortable and gets me going. So eventually, your sticky notes should fall into one of those 4 quadrants. Okay, so you got your sorted sticky notes. If you had to guess which behaviors then you should focus on first, the stuff in the upper right, lower left, or upper left, what do you think it would be?
Upper right.
Upper right. Why upper right?
Because you're actually going to do it and it will make a difference.
Because you're actually going to do it and it'll make a difference. Yeah, these are your low-hanging fruit. You know, when you have all these sticky notes, which is what happens in our brains, we have the swarm of bees, the swarm of behaviors, all these things we know we could do. How do you systematically choose what to focus on so you'll actually do something toward your goal? This is the magic process of doing that. So now I don't have to worry about these other sticky notes right now. All I need to do is pick 3 of the things that are in the upper right-hand corner and just focus on those 3 things. So all I have to do is come up with a plan to take those small hikes, buy that Colorado 14ers book, and buy myself some boots. And we'll talk about how we're going to break those things down, the behaviors down too. But does that make sense? We can't do everything all at once, so we need to be strategic about what we start with. And we always want to start with the things that we already know we can do, because then we'll be successful. And then when we're successful, we get really excited and dopamine just goes off in our brains. And then we want to continue to do more things. So really, to Janet's point, once I knock these off my list, what do I need to do? Reassess, like go through this whole process. Now these sticky notes are off the table. How might now I be able to redo all my sticky notes and see what becomes the top right-hand corner next? You may even come up with new behaviors in the meantime. You know, if that downsizing, this is not going to happen anytime soon, but these other behaviors start to lead you to other ideas of how you can, you know, continue your process. Then you just do this process. It didn't take us very long, did it? But we kind of skip over stuff like this because we think we can do it all in our heads. But I promise you, doing it like this actually works. Okay, so does anybody want to share what ended up in their upper right-hand corner? No pressure. Okay, Doreen will. Thank you.
So mine is health related. So my upper right is meal plan, lunch and dinner. Shop with intention for my meal plans.
Love it.
Manage stress with meditation and allow my son to hold me accountable to get out.
Love it. Those are great.
I mean, not get out, but I'm going to allow him to hold me accountable.
You get the one that lives in Fruita? The one that didn't leave the state?
He's only 10.
Oh. So that's okay.
He too will benefit.
Yes. Good. Okay, thank you for sharing. Yay. Okay, so now I have these behaviors. Some of them are pretty straightforward. Buying the book, buying the boots, but taking that small hike once per week. Now I got to figure out, well, how am I actually going to start doing that? Because you sometimes have these behaviors that need to be broken down into smaller micro steps. So once we've identified those behaviors, we have to decide, are these just one-offs? Like I can just go do this now and be done? Like go buy a book? Then that's pretty straightforward. That's already kind of a small behavior. But things that are bigger, something that I want to commit to doing, I need to figure out what is the smallest version of that I could possibly do. Ridiculously small. Like the example that BJ Fogg gives is if I want to start flossing my teeth regularly, because let's be honest, most of us aren't good at it. I could tell myself I'm going to floss all my teeth every single day starting now. If I haven't been doing it, am I really going to do that for very long? No. So what he says to do is, well, how about just floss one tooth? Yeah, it's better than no teeth. And if I do a different tooth every single day, eventually I'll at least hit them all, right? Eventually. And then maybe I'm, start the one tooth and I'm really excited, so I just keep going. But the thing is, I'm already successful after just one tooth. So setting these micro goals is really important. And how we do it is even more important. Because what BJ Fogg has discovered is that when we decide we want to add a new behavior to our life, we have to figure out where is it going to fit. If we don't go through that mental process to figure out where is it going to fit in the things I already do, it's just not going to happen. So every behavior that we want to add to get ourselves toward our goal has to follow this formula. After I blank, so after I brush my teeth, I'll floss one tooth. So in my case for the walking, or I think this is for the walking. After I drink my morning coffee, which I don't actually do, but after I do that, I will take a small hike. That's not it. The small hike will turn into, I'll take a 2-minute hike behind my house. There's just a little hill behind my house. So if I've not been hiking at all, I need to think through what is the smallest version of this I could start doing. Because what's really important in the first stage of doing a new behavior is that you just start to rewire your brain to incorporate that new behavior into your life. It does not matter how big the behavior is. In fact, it needs to be super small so that your rational brain can't give you some excuse for why you can't do it. So I might be able to come up with an excuse after work when I'm really tired that I don't have time to drive all the way to Serpents Trail and do a hike and then drive all the way back. But I really don't have an excuse to not just go up and down the hill that takes me 2 minutes. That's how tiny we're talking. And it works. So once you start to do that, it builds on itself naturally, and you don't have to force yourself to do the big thing. You just naturally grow into the bigger behavior. So let's try a couple more. This was the floss one. After I brush my teeth, I'll floss one tooth. After I pull into my driveway, so I had the goal of wanting to do more meditation and mindfulness, and so I did the thing that I know I'm not supposed to do, and I said I was going to start meditating for 20 minutes a day. How long do you think that lasted? Not even the first 20-minute session, because I'm a little ADHD and I couldn't sit there that long. So, didn't take off until I did this. After I pull into my driveway, I will meditate for 5 breaths. Not 5 minutes, just 5 breaths. Do you think I did this? Yeah, I couldn't tell myself I don't have time for 5 breaths. I'm going to breathe anyway, so I might as well just stay there and do it intentionally. So I did it, and now I do this all the time. And now it's grown, not to 20 minutes, truthfully, but I have this nice transition period anytime I pull into my driveway before I go into my home. And it's created a whole different feeling in my home, at least I think so. Just by taking those breaths. But I wasn't going to ever get there if I had kept thinking to myself the only version of this behavior that's worth doing is 20 minutes of meditation. So it's trying to get over this idea that, well, what good is one tooth? And instead thinking, I need to just do one tooth right now so I can rewire my brain. BJ Fogg actually, he wanted to start getting into shape. So he did after I pee, we all do that, I will do 2 push-ups. And over time, I'm assuming he went into his bedroom or somewhere else after. Or maybe you could do the countertop push-ups? I don't know. But yes, after I pee. So everybody pees, right? So that could be something you could anchor your new behavior to. What are some other just things in your day that you do every single day that you could anchor a new behavior to?
So this is kind of like a joke for people, but it's like if you're trying to start a new behavior, do it right before you're supposed to feed your cat.
Oh, see?
Because
the cat will. Yeah, that's perfect. So if you have a cat, that's going to be your little trigger for sure.
Because they'll let you know it's time to eat.
Yeah. So why doesn't an alarm work? Like, I'll just set an alarm and remind myself.
I have 3 of them on my
Yeah? Does it work?
Well, it buzzes.
It does what it's supposed to do. Whether you do what you're supposed to do after is the question. It just doesn't work because it's not attached to something we're doing already.
We already don't like the alarm.
We already don't. Exactly. I really hate the alarm. Yeah, it just doesn't really work that way. It works so much better if your trigger is something that's already in your day. If you can anchor it to something you already do, you're much more likely to fit it in there and keep it there. Any other ideas?
Well, along the line of, we all need to pee.
Mm-hmm.
We all need to drink water.
We all need to drink
So
water.
when I drink water, when I pee,
Uh-huh.
I drink water.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's perfect. Not at the same time.
No. and then you're doing
Is it just
like
efficient that way?
Yes.
a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So that would be a great way to start drinking more water. I love that example. Any other examples? Brilliant ideas that have come into your mind? Okay, but you get the idea, right? Now, the key is, like with the BJ Fogg, every time I pee, I do 2 push-ups. He eventually was doing 60 push-ups a day, where he hadn't done any before and actually got really strong. But 60 push-ups wasn't the goal. That's really important. 2 push-ups was the goal. He was successful after 2, and any more was just bonus. That really prevents or keeps us from beating ourselves up when we don't hit the big goal. I can go to Serpent's Trail and do my hike if I want to, but I'm successful after I do my 2-minute hill. Now, that may again grow naturally, and I might want to adjust it and make it bigger after I'm already doing the habit, but you want to start smaller than you think you should. Ridiculously small. Have I made that point well enough? Okay. Oh, here was another one. After I get home from work, I'll turn off the screen for 30 minutes. And that's probably even still too long. But like if you try to get over your digital addiction, maybe you just turn off all your screens while you make dinner and nothing's on. Okay, secret number 4. We're getting closer. Okay, build accountability. So Nicole was already thinking along these lines. But it's true. If we were good at holding ourselves accountable, we'd be doing the thing that's on our paper right now. That's just true. So sometimes we just need that extra little accountability partner. But there's some tricks to this too. So there's really 2 versions of ourselves that live inside. And one is the person who's sitting here right now in a workshop about how to set goals that stick. And you're really committed to, I'm going to do this, and you're excited. But there's also this future you, the you like a week from now, Janet, who's like, I don't know, do I really care about this Goodwill box? It's kind of a hassle. I don't know. I think I'll just forget it. Okay, so present you has all kinds of great intentions. Present you is, I got this. You're excited. Future you is, oh no, I gotta do this? Shit. Oh, was that recorded? Present you, usually high motivation. You're raring to go. Future you, low motivation. Present you needs to do something hard that commits future you to doing the thing you're not going to want to do a week from now. So when you're motivated, when you're feeling like this little surge of, okay, I got this, you need to choose a behavior that's going to get you to do the thing you don't want to do later. So for my hiking example, maybe it could be that, I get a friend to do it with me. That would help me do it. Maybe it's that one thing that I always recommended with my personal training clients is to just create a little calendar for yourself, because the human brain loves to see you get on a streak. We love streaks. So if you get a calendar, I like just good old-fashioned paper for this. And you just have your days of the week, and you give yourself a little smiley face for each day you do the behavior. Seeing yourself do the streak, you're not going to want to break it. So when you're excited right now, maybe you could just go home and Janet's going to say, I'm going to put one thing in a box. After I eat dinner, I will place one item in a box that goes to the donation. And then you're going to go buy the box tonight, because if you don't have a box, you're not going to put it in a box. So those are the things you have to think about. Those are the things that prevent us from getting started, because we don't think about what future us is going to need to stay committed. Does that make sense? Okay. The other cool thing is, back up, there's some interesting research about how we can cultivate more self-control. Does anybody remember, maybe you took a Psychology 101 class in high school where you learned about the marshmallow experiments from the 1960s? Is that, Dylan's grinning. Yeah, do you remember something? Like, you vaguely recall? Okay, so what they did was they brought kids into a room where there was a two-way mirror and the researchers were watching. Yeah, no, you're remembering. And they'd come in and there'd be a marshmallow on a plate and they'd tell the child, you can have this marshmallow now, but I've got to step out for just a few minutes. I'm going to be back. And if you wait and don't eat the marshmallow, you can have 2 marshmallows. Unless you think that, marshmallows are the be-all end-all. They tried this too with cookies and whatever. But it started with marshmallows, so that's why they became known as the marshmallow test. So, you can Google these videos. They are hilarious. Aren't they super cute? It's torturous when the researcher steps outside of the room and these kids are staring at the marshmallow for what seems like forever. You have some kids that are like looking at it, they'll pick it up, they'll smell it, yeah. And then they'll set it down, and then they'll wait, and then they kind of look at it again. Some of the kids, though, they don't even vacillate. They're just like, pop it in their mouth as soon as she walks out the door. It just runs the whole gamut. Well, what's interesting is they followed these kids for decades to see how their outcomes over a lifetime. In every measure of happiness, whether it be home, work, your success, your academic success, who do you think fared better?
The ones with better impulse control?
The ones with better impulse control. Just kind of makes sense, right? So you might think then that that's fixed. Is it pretty much fixed? How I was at 4 means, I have no impulse control. Would I have been the one that popped the marshmallow right into my mouth as soon as the researcher left? But there's been some newer studies by Dr. DeSteno, and he did kind of the adult version of this marshmallow test. And what he looked at was, I think, what's that? It should have been a glass of wine, 1 glass of wine or 2 glasses of wine. They used money, so they'd get double the money if, So what they would do, though, is they would prime the person ahead of time with what's called pro-social emotions, like gratitude and thankfulness. And then they would prime other people with just like the control group with like nothing. They just talked to them about some neutral topic. And what was fascinating is the people who were primed with the pro-social emotions, thinking about things they were grateful for, thinking about other people, that doubled their self-control over the people who weren't primed with that. So what they now believe is that when we are thinking about other people, including future you, if you have that mindset, you're grateful for what you have, you're going to have more self-control, even when it comes to the things that future you has to choose. So, this is a little secret about sticking to our goals that you may not have ever guessed was tied to goal setting. But if we cultivate gratitude, compassion, and authentic pride, that ability to tell ourselves, I did good today, because you truly did something. You did put that one thing in the box, Janet, after you ate dinner. We can celebrate that, and we need to take that moment to celebrate. BJ Fogg's work has confirmed this. Actually, he just came out with a book called Tiny Habits. It's based on all of his behavior design work. And what he really recommends is when you do that little tiny micro behavior, you take a moment to celebrate. And you can start by just doing one small behavior that he recommends everybody start with if you're wondering if this really works. And that is every time you get up out of bed in the morning, you just put your feet on the ground. So after I put my feet on the ground, I will say to myself, this is going to be a great day. And then as soon as you do it, give yourself a pat on the back or say, yeah, I did it. Just take that second to celebrate that you did the thing you were going to do, and you will set a habit for the rest of your life. Because when we can really start to cultivate an identity around this new behavior that's associated with being proud of ourselves, it's going to stick. It's going to become part of who we are, not just something that we thought about doing or should do. So gratitude, that's simple. That could be as simple as thinking about at the end of the day something you're grateful for. Doing a gratitude journal, lots of people do that. But if you've never done that, don't say, I'm going to start writing in a gratitude journal every day for 20 minutes. Maybe it's just, I'm going to write down one thing I'm grateful for, and it has to be something different for a month. Compassion, thinking about not just other people, but self-compassion, giving yourself a break. You know, talking to yourself like you would your best friend, you know, telling yourself, you got this, don't beat yourself up. All of those things aren't just good for our mental health, they're good for increasing our self-control and being able to stick to the things that we most want in our lives. So, all those things help you care about future you. Future you matters. We forget about future you. All right, secret number 5. Secret number 5 is writing it down and then posting it everywhere. Why do you think that's important?
To be reminded.
To be reminded.
Well, and by posting it everywhere, does that also mean like telling your friends and family about it so they check in?
You know,
or is that like a next
that's an interesting point. So she's asking, because I'm doing this for the camera, do we need to tell everybody about it? Is that kind of a version of posting it everywhere? There's actually conflicting research about this. The latest research about this is if you start telling everyone what you're going to do, for some people it backfires. You get this little celebration in your mind just for telling people you're going to do it, and then you don't go do it because you already got the reward of just telling people you're going to do it. It's kind of counterintuitive. Yeah, so I think if you tend to be one of those people, and maybe you won't know till you test it out, but I know I'm kind of one, like I don't like to announce to everybody because I don't want them nagging me or reminding me, or I don't know. It's just too much pressure. It creates a lot of pressure. What's that? It turns it into should. That's such a good point, Nicole. Yeah, I need to add that slide. It does. It basically turns it into a should. But if you just tell one person, maybe your accountability person, that can actually be helpful because then you're just there to cheer each other on. You're not there to judge. So if you are going to get an accountability buddy, you need to make sure it's somebody who's in the same mindset as you. Maybe somebody who went through this training. I really think you should pair up. Yeah.
Some vegetables are just
So this writing it down and posting it everywhere, what this does, again, it's neurology. It's just the way our brains are wired. We're wired to really do the things that we are reminded to do in our environment. So that's why when you have chocolate sitting out on your desk, you're being told 100 times, 200 times a day to eat chocolate by seeing that. You can reverse that and choose the healthy things that you want to do and make sure they're everywhere to remind your brain that that's something that's important. Our brains will just start to believe it's important because it's everywhere we go. So you can put it on your bathroom mirror, you could put it on your desk, your computer monitor, you could put it on your car dashboard, but whatever those low-hanging fruit behaviors are that you identified in your upper right-hand corner, you're going to write them on sticky notes or keep them there and just duplicate them and post them everywhere and remind yourself. Some interesting research just to support this idea. So this came out of the University of California, and basically people were asked to write some business-related goals that they hoped to accomplish within a 4-week period of time. And some groups were asked to write their goals and rate them on dimensions of to what extent they had the skills and resources to accomplish their goal, their level of commitment and motivation, and whether they had pursued the goal before. So kind of just priming their brain, like we did with this little process. How likely am I going to do it? How much impact is this going to have? Groups 2 through 5 were asked to do that but write it down. Group 3 was asked to write it down and then write some action steps, some commitments for each goal. Group 4 was asked to write the goals and share those with a friend. Not everybody, but a friend. And then group 5 went the furthest of all. They did that, plus they sent like weekly progress reports to their accountability buddy. And who do you think stuck to their goals the best? So group 1, the ones that just talked about their goals, only 43% of their group completed their stated goals. But the final group, the one that just did the process we did, so you're already halfway there. The only other step you need to do is just tell somebody you're going to do it. And then maybe take that extra step and just let that other person know periodically how you're doing. 76% of those people accomplished their goal. Now contrast that with your average resolutions. How many people keep their New Year's resolutions?
Well, I want you to know, when we were talking about Tuesday,
Oh.
that yesterday morning
Yeah.
at 7 o'clock, I text my dental hygienist. She's been our dental hygienist for like 15 years. And my New Year's resolution this year was to floss my teeth more. And so yesterday morning, I'm flossing my teeth, and I text my dental hygienist. I said, here I am flossing my teeth. Instead of doing it 1 or 2 times a week, I'm doing it 4 or 5 times a week. And every time I'm thinking, dang, Julie, be really proud of me right now.
Yes!
And so she texted me, she said, that's the best text I've ever gotten, but she said,
Oh.
it always taken me 15 years to get this.
That's great. Well, but why is it working this time?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I got the little floss, the little pit thing.
Uh-huh.
And now I'm just,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just right after the toothpaste goes in the drawer, the floss
Comes out. So you took a step, you went and got those toothpicky
Yeah.
things, because I'm like you. If I have to do this, me either. My teeth are so tight. So yeah, picking a version of flossing your teeth that you're actually going to do. So she really actually did this process. You didn't even know it. You figured out what you would actually do. You went and did that. Then you're celebrating by texting your hygienist. You're reporting your progress, right? So you're going to stick to this.
Usually, New Year's resolutions never work.
Yeah.
The last
Yeah.
time it worked was a couple decades ago when I gave up soda.
Mhm.
And I don't drink soda
Yeah.
anymore. But
Yeah.
Usually they don't.
Yeah. There's a few people who've maybe built up enough willpower. I don't know who they are. Over time, they white knuckle their goals and they do it, but it's really around 4% of people will set a New Year's resolution and actually accomplish it.
The thing is, they're so grandiose.
They're so grandiose.
Your New Year's resolution is, I'm gonna lose 50 pounds. And
Right.
I'm gonna
Right.
only eat vegan or whatever, and who's gonna do that right off the bat?
Right. And even though that could be your aspiration up here, if you don't take the time to figure out, well, what are those actual behaviors, the things I have to do, making sure those are action items, not just like something I want to have. Because that's why I bring up even the BMI. That's not something you could actually do. You can't change your BMI, but you can exercise. You can eat those vegetables. That will lead to a lower BMI. But that's the process that we really need to go through, is identifying, and then that becomes the goal. So exactly right. Your aspiration is up here. It's not the goal. And that's the difference. It's okay to have the aspiration. That's great. But now, how do we actually break it down to behaviors? How do we break those behaviors down into micro steps? Those micro steps become our goal, and the ones that we celebrate, right? And prime ourselves with gratitude and compassion and authentic pride. So, I love this quote from Nelson Mandela. It always seems impossible until it's done. And that's the beauty of the micro steps. Before you know it, Janet, your whole house is going to be cleaned out. It might take a year, but who cares? That year's going to go by, whether you put one thing in the box every single night after dinner or not, right? All right, so are we all going to take one step while present you is really excited and that commits future you to some micro behavior? One of the things in your upper right-hand quadrant? Yes? You can tell somebody about it? Not the whole world, not Facebook, but maybe one person? Yes. All right. I love it. Thank you for coming, you guys.